Hi everyone, welcome back to our channel. Bex here today to bring you a big fall book haul. I have 16 books, which is a lot for me. I was just really in a book buying mood the past couple months. This basically encapsulates books that I bought between the end of August and the end of October. So like 2 months? But hey, I did it, so let me share them with you. These first few books I picked up at some local bookstores when I was visiting my family in Vermont. The first of those is Rough Magic, Riding the World's Loneliest Horse Race by Lara Pryor Palmer. This one, I think it was actually Olive from a book Olive that I heard speak about it, and then she read it and loved it, so that pushed me to pick it up. The author decided to compete in the Mongol Derby, which is generally considered to be the longest, hardest horse race in the world, and she ended up being the youngest person ever to win as well as the first female to ever win, and this book is about that experience. The next one I snagged from a local bookstore was The Line Becomes a River, Dispatches from the Border by Francisco Cantu. This is another memoir, nonfiction sort of book. Francisco has always grown up around the US-Mexican border, and at one point he decided to become a part of the Border Patrol. And so this documents that experience from 2008 to 2012 working along the border, what he saw, what he did, and it sounds like something that would be incredibly relevant now, and one that's been on my TBR list for a while, and when I managed to find this for like a half price deal, I definitely wanted to pick it up because I'd love to hear from the experience of somebody who has worked along the border and lives in that environment day in and day out. And then the final book that I grabbed was Half Wild, which is a collection of short stories by Robin MacArthur. I actually had to hear about this book from Mercedes over at Mercy's Bookish Musings, and I find that funny because this book is by a Vermont author, and she was talking about it, and she lives in the UK, and so she's a lot farther away from anything revolving this book than I am, but when she started talking about it, I was like, I want to check out that book if I could ever find it, and then lo and behold, it was at this little bookstore. So I decided to grab it. It's just a bunch of short stories that take place in Vermont, and it's about different families over a number of years. So just like little glimpses into different people's lives. It is fictionalized, but I'm sure a lot of the things that this book discusses could happen in real life. The fourth book here is the only one of all of these that I have actually read at this point, and it is The Fountains of Silence by Ruta Sepetys. This is an ARC that was offered to me by Penguin Random House. They basically sent out an email with a bunch of their fall releases to a bunch of people and said, hey, is anybody interested in any of these? And I said, yes, I would really like to read The Fountains of Silence because I love Ruta Sepetys books. They are young adult historical fiction. This one takes place in Madrid, Spain in 1957, so during Francisco Franco's rule, and I already have a review on this, so if you would like to hear a bit more, I will link that up above so you can go take a look. I'm talking about these books in order of how I acquired them, so I'd say we're probably in like mid-September at this point, and so I've acquired 4 books, and I'm just really feeling the need to get more, so I decided to go to Value Village. I don't usually go to Value Village. It's not like it's super far away from me, but I know a lot of Canadian booktubers like to visit Value Village to see what books are there, and I think the one near me, the selection is kind of meh. Like I went to take a look because I knew I could get a cheap book if I found something that I was interested in, but I feel like some people have much better luck at their local Value Village. For me, I only found one book that I was interested in, and that is Sometimes I Lie by Alice Feeney. I have heard a few people talk about this one. It's a psychological thriller about a woman who wakes up in hospital, but she can't move, she can't like open her eyes or blink or anything, but she can hear everything that's happening around her, and she doesn't remember why she's there. So she is listening to other people's conversations, her husband, her sister, and trying to figure out what happened, and it's obviously going to be something sinister. Heard positive things. It's a pretty short book too, so I'm sure just it'll be a good pick when I'm in the mood for something creepy. These next 6 books came to me kind of unexpectedly. The office that I work at is a small team within itself, but we work for a larger company, and sometimes that company has campaigns, and if you do well in the campaign, you can win stuff. And one of the things we got was an Amazon gift card. It was $100, and I was the lucky winner in the office draw. So what did I spend my $100 Amazon gift card on? I spent it on books, because of course I was in a book buying mood and I had just been to pick up Sometimes I Lie, and then boom, I win $100. So yeah, I basically just spent it all on books. These are the 6 books that I bought with that money. The first one is Jesmyn Ward's Men We Reaped, it's a memoir. I read Sing Unburied Sing by the same author, and I thought it was okay. Like, I didn't love it, but I didn't hate it either. Like, I could recognize the merits of the book. But I decided that her memoir here would probably be better for me than that literary fiction book. This is reflecting on 5 men in Jesmyn Ward's life who died within a very short span of each other. They were all Black men, and just talking about those different situations in which they passed away and how their memories and the actions kind of affect her and the community around them. Heard very good things about this one. It's been on my wish list for a while, so I was glad that I'm finally able to have it in my possession. Next, I picked up the 3rd and final book in the Young Elites trilogy. This is The Midnight Star by Marie Lu. If you've been watching some of my other videos this year, I decided to pick up the Young Elites back in March, I believe, not expecting much, and actually really enjoyed it. This is a young adult fantasy series, but it's very dark. The characters, a lot of the characters have kind of superpowers, magical powers, and the setting of the world is pretty cool. But I just love how dark it is, how morally gray the characters are, the tough choices that they have to make. So I ended up reading the first 2 books within a couple months of each other, and then I needed to grab the last one so I could finish off the series. Hopefully this one will be just as strong as the other ones. The 3rd book from this stack is A Manual for Cleaning Women by Lucia Berlin. This is another book of short stories, which it's odd for me to even have any collection of books on my TBR shelf that is short stories. So now I've hauled 2 of them in this one haul, and this is a pretty famous book. Lucia Berlin was an author who didn't really get the recognition she deserved during her lifetime, but since she passed away, it seems like her books, particularly this book, has really just shot up on the list of things on people's radars, and so I wanted to try this one out. It's just, apparently, I've heard, somebody said somewhere, I don't remember if it was BookTube or just the internet when I was reading about the book, but somebody said if they were stuck on a desert island, this would be the book that they would want to have with them, because there's so many interesting, well-written stories in here. This book is also deceptively thin. The pages are really thin in this book, so it's actually over 400 pages, but it looks like it's like a 330-page book. So there's a lot to get through in here, but I'm excited to give it a try and see if I like it as much as everybody else seems to. Then we got another large book, and that is Lethal White by Robert Galbraith. This is the 4th book in the Cormoran Strike series. I have read the other 3 and I did enjoy them. This is, if you aren't aware somehow, this is J.K. Rowling writing under a different name, and it's just like a crime series, but the 2 main characters, Cormoran Strike and Robin Ellicott, really make the books for me. So I'm excited to see where this story goes. I kind of heard shaky things about this one, like some people just want that mystery, whereas other people are really invested in the characters' relationships, and so some people want different things with the book. So this is definitely going to be a series that doesn't please everybody, but I do enjoy J.K. Rowling's writing style. I think it's really strong in these books, so I'm looking forward to continuing on with this series at some point. This book is quite large. It's like 650 pages, so it's not just going to be a one that I probably decide to pick up on a whim, but someday it'll happen. Then I've got a really interesting little book here. This is called Dead Mountain, The Untold True Story of the Dyatlov Pass Incident. It's by Donnie Eicher. This one I had seen around, and then Kayla from Books and Lala, she mentioned this book as being one of her favorite books that she's ever read, and I was like, oh, Cool, well, I need to check that out now because I love books about mountaineering. The little blurb at the top says, a gripping book at least as dramatic as Krakauer's Into Thin Air. And I freaking love Into Thin Air. It's one of my favorite books ever. So that was the push that I finally needed to get this book. This is a nonfiction book about a group of experienced hikers who were all found dead in the Russian Ural Mountains back in February of 1959. And the scene when they were found was very strange. Things just seemed off. And so now we, fast forward to many years later when we have a lot more technology to sort of understand what might have been the cause for all of these experienced hikers to die. Apparently the story is incredibly fascinating and probably a bit creepy as well, but it's going to be a gripping read for me. This is definitely the kind of book, nonfiction book, that I lean towards reading anytime in my life. And then the last of my Amazon haul is From the War on Poverty to the War on Crime, The Making of Mass Incarceration in America by Elizabeth Hinton. This is a chunker. It's a lot going on in here. This is from Harvard University Press, so it is a rather academic book, but I have wanted to read it because I want to understand more about this situation in the US. I feel like my knowledge is very limited. I certainly couldn't have a super in-depth discussion with somebody about it, and I want to be able to have an in-depth discussion with somebody about it. This book is obviously going to look at the US prison system and the fact that African American men are a large part of that system, and the author is going to argue that it actually wasn't Reagan's war on drugs that started this problem. It actually goes all the way back to the social welfare programs under Lyndon Johnson. So I'm interested to learn more about that. This is another book that I'm probably gonna have to prepare myself to read because it's gonna be heavy and it's gonna be very academic, but obviously I wanna read it because I bought it. We're into the final stretch, folks. These last 5 books I picked up pretty recently at my local library's book sale. They have an annual book sale and it's massive, and I usually have to pull myself back. I usually go through once, throw a bunch of books in my bag, and then before I leave, I go through them again, read the first page, just see if it's something that I'm actually going to read, because when you see a lot of books, you get excited, right? Y'all know what I mean. These first 2 books were actually not my choice though, so I went with 2 friends, and one of my friends just suggested that we each find a little mass market paperback book that looked ridiculous, and the challenge would be for the other people to read those little mass market paperback books that they were given. So these are the 2 that I got. The first one is called Mew is for Murder. It's a Theda Krakow mystery, but from what I understand, I don't need to read these books in order. And it's by Clea Simon, and this is, from what I understand, basically the crazy cat lady is murdered, and come to find out, maybe the crazy cat lady wasn't actually so crazy after all. As far as these little books that I was given to read, this one definitely seems like the more sensible of the 2. The other one is absolutely ridiculous, and it's called Track the 99, which, sorry, my ring light's shining off of this like there's no tomorrow, but look at that man. Look at that mustache. And this is by Jerry Ahern. This was definitely published in the 80s, and it is definitely as macho man as you would expect. Basically, Daniel Track is our main character, and this bad guy who is like a neo-Nazi has stolen 100 nuclear warheads from some sort of US military outpost somewhere, and he has placed them all across the United States, and the first one that they become aware of is on a train in Chicago. And so Dan Track must defuse this nuclear bomb before it explodes, but then there's still 99 to go, so that's why it's called The 99. It was published in 1984. That's when a lot of those macho man movies, I mean, they still happen now, but that was pretty much the height of stupid action films with beefy men. So I really think this is a serious book, but the back, the little blurb at the bottom, I thought it was about the author at first, and then I actually read it and realized it's a descriptor of the character Dan Track, our main dude. It says, Dan Track learned how to fight by growing up orphaned among Southside Chicago gangs. okay? He's a white dude with a mustache. Famous in the US Army for his genius-level IQ and brawny mastery of survival, he now pursues a man who is the shadow of death itself. That's our bad guy. A zealot whose dream is everybody's worst nightmare. Only Track stands between us and nuclear hell. Like, this book, that is ridiculous. That is the most ridiculous explanation of a character I think I've ever heard. And the fact that it's supposed to be taken seriously, like, I am dreading reading this book, but I also am very excited to read it, and I've spent more time talking about this book than any of the other books on this list, but I might do like a little reading vlog experience for these just to share with you my experience, because it could be amazing. You never know, right? The first of these less ridiculous books is The Children's Blizzard by David Laskin. This is another nonfiction book in that subgenre of people going through intense experiences that I really enjoy. This one focuses on Northern European immigrants who are welcomed to come to the United States and, you know, settle this beautiful land that we have, but turns out it's actually like a hard and unforgiving place, whatnot. And then there's this blizzard of 1888 that happens, and I think it's called The Children's Blizzard because a bunch of kids died because this blizzard like came out of nowhere, and just talking about how hard it was for these immigrants living in that area of the United States, especially this particular winter. Apparently it's like reads almost like a thriller, so I am ready for this book. Second to last, I have a bit of an odd one here. This one is called Witness to a Revolution, and the subtitle is The Advocate Reports on Gay and Lesbian Politics from 1967 to 1999. It's edited by Chris Bull. It's basically a collection of articles from The Advocate, which was a newspaper that specifically focused on gay and lesbian politics, and it's taking sort of the best stories of that time that really accentuate the climate between 1967 and 1999. This book, it's ginormous, and like there's going to be a lot of interesting stuff in here. I'm really interested in this particular topic, and so to have a book like this be $2 at a book sale, like even if I don't love it, paying $2 for this book was totally worth it, and I really hope I can learn some interesting stuff from this. And then finally, we have a book that many of you will recognize, and it is The Nightingale by Kristin Hannah. This one has been huge on BookTube, and I'm one of those people that you would probably have expected to have read this by now, but has not, because it is historical fiction, which I usually enjoy, and it's a World War II story, which I also enjoy. I'm definitely one of those people that enjoys World War II books. This one takes place in France and focuses on the experience of two sisters who make decisions very differently, live their lives very differently, but contribute to the war effort in different ways. And apparently this is heartbreaking. I may cry, who knows, we'll find out, but I'm glad to finally have this on my shelf. And that is it. Thank you guys for sticking with me through this entire video. All 16 of these books now have to somehow fit on this bookshelf here that definitely does not have enough room, so that'll be fun. If you have read any of these books or have any thoughts on any of them, please let me know what you're thinking in the comments down below. As always, all of our links are in the down bar, so you can go check those out if you feel so inclined. Thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you later.